voice, Fandom Pop, for we have finished Season 4 of Rick and Morty, and I've reviewed just about every episode from this season. I know this is a new channel doing random things like reviewing Rick and Morty episodes and random PlayStation reactions and all the other things. If you have tuned in, I appreciate it. If you stuck in for every Rick and Morty episode and every discussion, and like maybe I skipped one or two episodes and you like got really butthurt about that, then I appreciate you. You are a wonderful human being. But anyway, let's talk about what we're going to be discussing here today. Season 4 finale. I want to talk about that episode, but I didn't want to just stop there. I thought, hey, why not look back at the entire season and be like, what episodes lived up, which ones in retrospect we feel different about, and does this season stack up to the others? Find out here today on Fandom Pop. I said that like the Dragon Ball Z guy, like you're gonna find out what happens in the next episode. No, you'll find out right now, actually. Season 4 was like the whole family getting together and having this big hoorah, this big montage episode where everyone's just kicking ass and having fun. And it all starts when Beth's clone returns. Is it her? Is it her actual clone? Because for whatever reason, once Rick decided that he would send a clone out into space or send his real daughter out into space, she becomes like a Star Wars sci-fi character. She still is kicking ass. She's still taking names. She's shooting up glorps and meeseeks and whatever else sci-fi characters do in Rick and Morty. And she's still doing it as Beth Smith. And yes, that is the most generic sci-fi name you could have. Like, why would you not turn your last name into Sanchez? Well, the reason for that is because she finds out that she has a bomb on the inside of her neck. And maybe that's because she is a clone, and maybe it's like a final detonator. Who knows? Who knows? She goes to Rick to find answers and then wants to kill him, and that's where our episode begins. And I'll be honest, very much how by the time they got back to the evil Morty plotline, I like kind of forgot about it. By the time that they finally did this episode, I was starting to, forget that, oh yeah, this isn't even Beth. This is like probably a clone of her. And I think it's implied, if anything, that this should be a clone. They definitely leave it open-ended on purpose, but if I were to like guess, and like if they answer it one day, then yeah, this is probably the real Beth, and what we had was a clone. But usually Rick and Morty like casts off all these alternate stories and all these alternate characters. There's an endless timeline of alternate members of our family members, and they just get cast off. And for once, the show is like, no, even a clone is important. And very much like in the other episode where Morty was just skipping through dimensions willy-nilly, it's trying to say, no, there's consequences. Even though nothing matters, at the end of the day, things matter to us. Let's back it up a little bit. While sci-fi hero Beth is off fighting stormtroopers and Death Stars and whatever the fuck Jabba the Hutt is, the real Beth is at home. Is it the real? We don't know. But our version of Beth currently is at home and just doing the usual, going to family therapy. Morty and Summer are having like this fight about an invisible belt. They literally just go on the most random B-plot ever, where they have an invisible belt and Morty tries to get into hijinks with it, and then Summer tries to get into hijinks with it, and then they try to double cross one another, but then they come together in the end when they kind of get reeled back into the A-plot. It was fun and lighthearted enough, but it felt a little bit tacked on, I'm not gonna lie. They even have a joke about that where Morty's like, hey, let's not mess with anything going on here in the A-plot. I respect that, Morty. But anyway, the space sci-fi Beth, she comes down, she fights Rick. Rick tries to answer her, and he kind of gives her the runaround, and then he gives the other Beth the runaround, and then you start to realize, oh, Rick has no idea which Beth is the real version, and we get revealed later in the episode that he literally randomized it and like purposely made it so he didn't remember. He absolutely has no idea, and I don't think we will either for a very long time, if not ever. But wouldn't you know, this episode isn't just bringing up that old plotline thread, it's bringing up Tammy. Even after being teased in the Never Rick and Morty episode, she is back for reals this time, and she basically is trying to track down Sci-Fi Beth and murder her for all the bad things she did because she's basically like Darth Vader. I guess she just never went after Rick because it's like, hey, if you just leave Rick alone, he doesn't come after you. It's not worth the fight, you know? I think that's awesome, but I like the idea that Tammy is going after Beth and they have a final showdown, and wouldn't you know, guess who appears? Bird Phoenix! Yeah, it's not Bird Person anymore, it's Bird Phoenix. He came back, Metal Frieza style, and he's basically being controlled. He's like Clockwork from Sly Cooper. He's just a retarded, put-together bird person at this point. And all his old Bird Person quips are back. I love that we have Bird Phoenix now. Best character, entire franchise. But they have a big showdown with Tammy and Bird Phoenix. They kind of one by one take them out. Tammy gets eliminated by Rick, and you know, it kind of feels a little bit anticlimactic, but then even Rick like lets out like a comic relief gag joke after that. It's kind of like, oh yeah, she died over serialized like she's always been. It's kind of like, oh, okay. I mean, there was potential for Tammy to be something more and be this bigger plot line, but I think we'll leave that for Evil Morty. Not only that, but this season, and I'll get to this when I come to the season overview, it is trying very hard to be episodic. Whereas the last season kind of felt like, hey, we're doing something bigger here. If you remember the last episode of the season, it deflated all of that, and this season is kind of running that course while also trying to make fans happy by using their old storylines. It's a little bit all over the place, and it doesn't seem to exactly know what it wants to be. One of the few major complaints about this season, actually. But when the episode ends and, you know, they save the day, they kind of got to resolve the issue, which Beth is which, oh ho ho. And yeah, no one cares. Nobody cares. They literally all go about their day. Beth decides, hey, yeah, I'm talking about Space Beth in this instance. She's like, yeah, I'll stay around, you know. I thought I'd join back into the family if Jerri, you know, doesn't piss me off too much. Yeah, and that's how that episode ends. Basically, we have a new addition to the family member, another version of Beth, this alternate version, which kind of shows more of her psyche, that like she alternate universe just one step away was a real badass bitch. And it ends with Rick really losing grasp on his hold in the family, whereas last season he ended up on top of the mountain. This season he ends very much back in the passenger seat. Even Jerri saves the day at one point. Ultimately, is the resulting downfall of Tammy is the fact that, and Phoenix Person, is that he uses Tammy's corpse as a puppet. They have a weird puppet joke thing in this episode. Jerri gets this big comeback art. What the fuck is going on? But season finale, definitely a great episode. I don't think it's going to be in my top 10, but it's definitely better than last season's finale. I enjoyed this episode. I think for what they could have done with Tammy and Bird Person, like if they're just going to put them in one singular episode and deal with that and deal with the clone thing, I think that's actually a smart idea. I enjoyed this episode. I thought it connected some of the old plot threads that were left hanging in the air. Finally tied them up. We're good. We're good, Rick and Morty. I'll not be as pissed off as I wait for 10 more years before the next season. Let's talk about season 4. This season had some of my least favorite episodes and like maybe one or two of my favorite episodes. There was a couple episodes that, like, the first time I saw them, I was like, oh shit, this is one of the best episodes. But none really had that, like, lasting appeal like a Rick Lantis episode is gonna bring me. There was never, like, a moment that, like, killed me. There was a couple moments, I remember in, what was it, Prometheus. There was a moment I laughed my ass off. The old man in the seat had, like, another amazing moment. But a lot of these episodes, I'll go down the list. Edge of Morty. That was a great episode. I love that episode. The Old Man in the Seat. Another great episode. We're off to like a really good start. But then I talked about the heist episode. I'm not a fan of that episode. Then you get to the dragon episode, which was fun, but it was weird. It definitely was probably on the lower tier of episodes. Rattlestar Ricklactica, the snake episode. Again, some of these episodes I've heard, different opinions. Some people love that train Never Rick and Morty episode. Some people love the stupid snake episode. I don't see myself ever being like, oh, I'm showing my friend Rick and Morty for the first time. Let me pull up the snake episode. Definitely not. Never Rick and Morty. Again, I did not care for that episode. It didn't feel like I was watching Rick and Morty. It felt like I was watching something completely nihilist. But by the time I got to Never Rick and Morty, I realized the last 4 episodes just weren't the same. I was starting to lose faith in not only the season but the entire show, man. After that, you had Prometheus. That brought it all back, man. I love that episode. The Vat of Acid episode, another favorite. Then the season finale. Oh, sorry. Then you had Childrick of Mort, another good episode. Cap it off with the season finale that I just talked about. 4 episodes out of 10 that I'm kind of in a mixed bag. I don't dislike any episodes, but 4 episodes that I'm not too fond of. That's probably a record. So by that logic, I think that this is probably my least favorite season. It definitely feels like the writers and the creators are just not in the same mindset that they were. Season 1, it was the original crew. Then season 2, they're constantly going through different staff, and I get that. They get writers bought out by major companies and everything. But season 2 seemed to be the best state of mind that they were in. They're still trying to up the ante and make this show as the best it could be. And then season 3, they were still in that mindset, but it was starting to come a little bit more serialized, a little bit more going to storylines, and they were being held accountable for the first time. In season 4, it definitely feels like, hey, we're trying to make fun of Avengers and Star Wars and popular media, but at the same time, we're fucking Rick and Morty. We're rock stars. It doesn't feel like the show has entered that pandering line quite yet, but it does feel like we're not watching the same show anymore. But these characters are still going to develop. They're still going to be interesting characters, and they're going to go places, and it's all going to be fun and interesting. Glorps and invisibility belts and going through the film alive. It's all going to be great. It's just going to be a little bit different, but change is necessary, especially if you want 100 years of Rick and Morty. Season 5, I'll be back. If you guys ever want me to do more Rick and Morty content, just let me know. I'm gonna chill it out for a little bit. But again, if you would like more in-depth pieces and personality and other random videos that I could do about this show, let me know. I would be happy to. I'm just here for you guys. I'm just a slave to your will, so you can click buttons and make me happy. But that's about it for me here in Fandom Pop headquarters. I'm gonna give you all a top of the hat. Thank you for watching as always. I appreciate it. I have a lot of social medias in the links down below. You can subscribe to this channel. I put out pop culture videos describing every nerdy thing I'm into. It's a fun time. I'm a chill guy. Subscribe if you want to watch this beard talk about anime and video games and Rick and Morty for probably 1,000 hours and 100 years of Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty is going on for another 100 years, and Fandom Pop is too. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and until next time, get swifty, wubba lubba dub dub. I am in great pain, and with that, I leave you.
Just have fun, do what I do, and go with the